Doing tonight? Let's get my chat up. People fall in. You see it. The fight over return to office is getting dirty. So let's see what's going on with that. So give me a one in the chat if you can hear me. Give me one in the chat if you can hear me. So I'm sure a lot of people are off tomorrow. Well, not a lot. I mean, a lot of private companies don't get Veterans Day. So appreciate you, Cal Morton. Thanks for joining me again. Shout out to you. 8317. Shout out to you. You know how we do it. If you got any tech questions or cybersecurity questions, just drop them in the chat. If you want me to do a certain video, just drop it in the chat. And if I think it's appropriate, I'll do it. And we gonna get to movement. So one of my I guess pet peeves or sad projects is just talking work from home, right? For me, that's the holy grail. That's the big key to get. But a lot of companies are pushing back on that. So that's making it interesting, right? So um, cool. I think that's definitely viable and a viable way to get in there. Did you come from Dr. Gerald Ozier? I'm usually on his site. He's got a nice beginning GRC super low course class he makes available, Kyle. But we can definitely talk about that. Did you reach out to me? I think I shot something with you. See if you were available tomorrow. I don't know. I've been getting so many requests to chat. Just let me know. But I would definitely recommend Dr. Gerald Ozier. He has a Simply Cyber. He has a killer low cost GRC intro class. So that's cool. But yeah, did you take his class yet? I think that's definitely the beginning class to get in and kind of what you need to get in. And we were talking about things you can do from a portfolio GRC perspective to build your knowledge up and to be able to show an employer. So that's definitely coming up. So that's kind of been on my mind and how to actually make that happen. What's up, Wayne Wallace? Yeah, facts. I'm lucky to be fully remote. I think that's definitely an advantage. So we're gonna see how that plays out. And congratulations to you. I'm gonna say that's a lot of people are looking for that. And it seems like a lot of bigger companies are pulling back from that. I got promoted from my last title and had in a week home a month. My new boss is strict and once a week with restrictions. It's a long commute, so now I'm burnt out. The time home monthly was good. Yeah, facts. That's kind of why I never go back. Um, and it's weird. And I see, I'm not gonna say it's weird, but it's weird. One regime in a private company will say you good, and then a new CEO say I want everybody back. You like, dude, I moved 2 states away, right? So that makes it interesting. When one CEO before was cool with it, then the new CEO wasn't cool with it. So that's definitely excuse me happened before. So that's interesting. So and that sucks too. Was part of the interesting part of that. So while people coming in, I'm gonna play this other video I did a year ago, and it talks about how our employee got fired with work remote from the technology that was, I said, spying on them. So we're just gonna look at about a couple minutes of it. Then when people come in, we're gonna definitely hit this article. Once again, if you got any questions for the chat, just drop them in there. We can definitely get to them. I'm against hybrid too. Let's see. I'm against hybrid. If I could be hybrid Monday and Friday, I'll take it. That's Sunday nights the worst facts, man. I'm just like I said, I just got lucky. What is the latest intrusion? What was the latest intrusion? I gotta go look to be honest. There's so many. For me, I think the last one I did was the Mr. Cooper mortgage one. I don't think I've done any before that. There was a couple smaller ones that came out. I just didn't do anything. Cisco's been getting beat up lately. What's up, Operation Takeover? So let's listen to this real quick. Let me while people roll in.
Professor Black Ops, you see it. Let's get it. Employers are spying on remote employees. We already knew that, but this lady on TikTok had an excellent video and wrote about it. So we're gonna give her a little love. So this is her right here. So do they require you to be on camera all day? I know who people say covering their camera, but sometimes it's not an option. So her employer says right there, not at your desk, the employer shows her cooking, right? So they locked her out of the computer because she's in company violation. So they let you know your employer be looking through your camera. So let's make sure we dressed appropriate.
Here, let's talk about that, right? So I appreciate you, Cal. Definitely giving it to the barbecue fund. I appreciate you. So her employer was her video her camera while she was cooking, right? So that lets you know, and we're gonna it talks about in there. Some companies micromanage you from when you work from home for remote work, right? If you don't have so many keystrokes, if your mouse is not jiggling and your screen closes, right? Companies are getting metrics on that on the back end, right? So I'm just lucky. I think because I'm a senior and I'm old, most people don't don't mess with me like that, right? Long as I get my tasks done, right? People leave me alone. But this just verified that we already knew, right? When you go remote work with some of the bigger companies, they're definitely micromanaging you. And if they don't like you, right? People taking smoke breaks. She could have cooked a egg sandwich in 10 minutes or less, right? Quicker than the people smoke break, right? But just letting you know, companies are spying on you. So let's listen to a little more before we jump into the other
Yeah,
article.
make sure we're doing what we're supposed to do. So let's read the article once again. It's super quick, but they show her right there cooking. So let's get it. Oh man. Oop, it's the wrong thing. There's the article. So let's get it. Whew, trying to get going today. So you should always cover your camera. Management sends remote worker photo of herself away from her desk, suspends her for speaking out. They're not gonna reprimand you and let you speak out about it too. That's not gonna happen, people. So you see it right there. Let's make it super big. Once again, she's cooking. They show her right there, not at your desk. Mm. So they put this is a level of micromanagement will keep them with a high turnover rate. They know it and they don't care, man. So companies know uh, what their rules and regulations do for their employee retention. So in a series of viral TikToks, remote work alleged her alleged employer, an undisclosed customer service company that leads campaigns for financial technology company Clarion, spied on her through her webcam. Number one, it's probably not her webcam. That's probably a company computer, I would think. Locked her out of her computer for getting up from her desk and suspended her from speaking out on TikTok. So if they're locking you out of her computer, that's not her computer. That's a company computer. That's number one, right? So if that's not your computer, they can do with it what they want to. So don't be confused, people. So let's keep reading now. Let's keep going. In the first viral TikTok.
So that's all I want to go. We're gonna keep it moving. But once again, companies are looking at you through your webcam. You need to understand what your company's policies and procedures is and where you fit at in there, right? So you don't want to be getting suspended, right? Because they show you cooking in the middle of the day, right, where you're supposed to be working. Once again, we all know we're going to talk about this, and AWS is the one in this article, so we know they got some of the best technology on the planet, right? So we know they're definitely watching you. Two is, and we're going to get into that. Remote jobs are still out there. I, I'm, I wouldn't say plentiful, but they're out there. The other part, if you look on Indeed, when you apply for a remote job, it'd be like 200 people applied, 300 people apply. So if you're trying to go for a high level remote job, the competition is fierce. right? So, but we all know that. Oh, checking out my man CL. Chewy listening to my I can't heard my puppy's name, and it appeared in this email subject line and definitely didn't input the name. Wow, that's not cool. But people spying on you, man. People spying on you. You know that government computer, man, get you. So I want everybody to be safe over the holiday with their government computer. So let's keep rolling. Let's get in the article right here. So the fight over return to the office is getting dirty, right? And I think videotaping that lady cooking was part of being dirty. But let's keep going. Once again, if you got any questions, tech or cybersecurity, just drop them in the box. Amazon has built a 1.3 trillion oh my God, with a T, I'm used to saying B, $1.3 trillion empire, largely by tracking and evaluating almost every aspect of a customer's life. From a new TV to toilet paper refill, Amazon knows what its customer want, when they want it, and is already to serve it to them, right? That's one of the benefits of Amazon. They have all that figured out. Once again, they got the best technology on the planet, so they watching you. This exception with metrics, however, does not appear to extend to certain parts of the Amazon workplace. Over the past few months, the company has aggressively pushed employees back to the office. In February, Amazon announced that employees would be required to come to the office 3 days a week. Since then, the e-commerce giant has escalated its battle with remote employees, sending emails to employees about their attendance, creating internal dashboards to display how many days a week each employee was coming into the office, and telling managers in October that they will begin firing employees who weren't meeting the return to office policy, right? So we knew that was coming. We knew a lot of big companies are telling you to come back to the office. We know they have the best technology to track what you come in, so we know they're watching you, right? So two is I think Amazon wants to cut down their staff. They were laying off people. So I think this is just another easier way to lay people and force people to quit. All right. Especially, if you don't move 2 states away, now you got to drive back. Now they're trying to force you back in, which is weird because in fact, the weird part about it is you would think Amazon is a technology company with the best technology in the world. They really want you to be in the cloud, which would push remote work, you would think, and all their services are cloud focused. So it's weird you would think a cloud first company will be forcing people back to work from my view. But I'm sure that we're gonna get into it and figure out what their issues are. When perturbed employees have pressed executives for the reason behind the mandate, supposedly data obsession higher ups have seen to have no data to justify it. Asked in October about this, Mike Hopkins, a senior vice president of Prime Video, Amazon Studio, offered a vague response saying that he had no data either way on whether mandating in-office work made people more productive. But the executives believe that Amazon workers do their best work when they're together. And two, shout out to the boomers. I think that's a boomer thing. All right. CL, no, I asked one of the top guys what his thoughts on that. He told me to my face, he believed when workers come in, the synergy was much better in person. Right. So I actually asked him once again, a high ranking executive when I was on site as a consultant, and he was a cool guy. He said, no, but it's much better when people were in house. The synergies, he believed the juices were flowing. He believes supervisors can supervise better in that philosophy, right? But two is, and me and CL had a lot of discussions about this. I believe it's, and I'm that way. I don't believe that people come in, but when you are MBA, you train in MBA, and you have those schools, their training both mostly is for you training people in house, right? You're a rah guy, execution, and a lot of times you get that military stuff, right? Because you can get on top of people when you're in person with them, right? So I think there's going to be a paradigm shift. I just think you need a new generation to push that paradigm shift. So I think the boomers are in person, traditional business and how we do it and how we make things happen. And two is shout out to Struggle Security, give it to the barbecue fund. And Struggle Security says something that was super relevant to me is a lot of times younger people learn better when they're in the house and you can meet them face to face, right? Because I'm great at reading body cues and non-language cues. It's hard to do that through Teams, Zooms, or WebEx, right? So I've been trying to work on other ways to make my management skills better when we remotely, right? We got all these tools. I actually looked at, and I'm starting doing some videos that Microsoft Teams has 20 applications to help you with communications, right? You got bookings, you got Teams, you got chat, you got automation. There's so many Excel. You just got so many things built into Microsoft Teams and to Microsoft. I think we need to take better use of those applications because out of the box, most companies have those applications. They're not using anyway. I forgot one application. I could draw on your screen while we communicate like we're face to face. So I think we need to start using the technology better. You think AWS will be pushing that type of stuff because they're really a technology company. So I'm a little perplexed once again why they didn't do that. Let me see what my man JM talking about, one of the day ones. Let's see what's going on. Do you feel that maybe the IT departments are the ones trying to get the bosses to get people to work back on site? Let's be honest, work from homes create new responsibility for IT departments. Um, I don't think it's IT. Well, let me roll that back, Jam. The companies I see, I don't think it's IT departments as much. I think people have been kind of doing remote work and working at night and working on the weekends. I don't think it's the IT departments because IT's been actually pushing remote work for 30 years. There's some things I'm trying to think because IT is really not customer facing as much, right? Even with help desk now, a lot of people doing that stuff to tickets. I can log in and remotely take over your machine. So I don't think it is as much, especially when I say clients and large companies. I work for JM. I dropped the link if anybody want to come up. So I don't think so, JM. Like I said, most of the times it was the divisions. They wanted their people to come in. They wanted their people because they were not most operation divisions are not used to working remote. Like I said, IT, we've been stepping around this for 30 years, right? I was remote dialing in on an 8080 baud modem doing some work on the Oracle DBA stuff. Minor stuff, though. It wasn't like I could do a lot, right? But then it kept getting better and better and better. So I don't, so once again, JM, long story short, I don't think it's the IT. I think it was Salute to Aiken. I think it's the business division. And when I asked the questions, I've asked the question of divisions directors, and most of them said they wanted their people to come back. So I would ask them why a lot of their people weren't tech savvy. That was one thing. Um, they were struggling with some of the components like we're used to, like Teams and chat inside Teams and sharing documents inside Teams. A lot of division people, especially if they were a little older, they were struggling with that, JM. So that's my 2 cents on that. Let's see. When perturbed, employees press executives for the reason behind the mandate. Supposedly, data obsessed higher ups has seen to have no justification. Asked August Mike Hopkins. I think I read this. Yeah. So, Mr. Prime Video in my studio, they didn't have any metrics, and that's rare for Amazon not to have metrics. They're a metrics-driven company, man. They got metrics on everything. So it was quite surprising that once again, Amazon, a metric company, so they're managing on feel. They feel that people work better when they come in, right? They feel it's more synergies, but they didn't have any numbers to back that up. Right? It's reasonable to wonder why Amazon, a company that has data on what I would say 100 millions of people in their decision, is struggling to come up with hard numbers to back up their dictatorial push back to the office. I like that. Dictatorial push back to the office. Perhaps the reason is that data supporting Amazon and other companies, RTO, return to office, is threadbare, relying mostly on a few studies that use simple sets of stuff coming in. Shout out to my man Struggle.
Hey,
So, What's going on? Add questionable claims to remote work for less productivity, but the weakness of evidence won't stop bosses from making. That's my when I asked them, they were like, "We want people to come back." They indicate a failure of imagination on the part of management and refusal to work necessary to create a positive culture. So, what's your take on that? I know you in management. I'm gonna pick on you.
Yeah.
You part of the elitism, making people come back, man. What's your thoughts on that?
Man.
I'm putting you in the elite. So what's your thoughts on that, man?
Well, the structure of consulting is very different than just a lot of organizations. So many times consultants have always been remote, but we travel to customer sites. But that's even lessening. So I don't know. I've been remote since 2016, 2017.
Facts.
So I really, I mean, as it concerns, all right. So back to your question, from the management perspective, I do feel there is more of a disconnect between myself and my team.
Hold on, Jay. Hold on. Real cool. I don't have sound effects like you, so I'm gonna do this manually. Boo, boo. Go ahead. I have to give me a soundboard. Boo. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No. I'm just saying. I do feel there is more of a disconnect, but I think that's just dependent upon people, right? Sometimes people might want to just go to work and go back home. I think remote work works well there. But if you're looking to kind of like innovate with your team members, really pick people's brains, really connect and kind of build a team dynamic, some level of in-person is, I think, important. How much? 3 days a week in the office? I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
And this is where he kind of fell, but I think he's pushing it forward. The metaverse, right? We supposed to go in our room. We have avatars. We supposed to be Iron Man, right? Hit the code. We can watch the code, go through the loops and see where it's got. We could be looking at viruses move through network, right? I think that was supposed to be the future to help that. So I guess there's two things. Number one, it didn't happen. But number two, are we getting closer to that to make it more, to feel like that and make that happen?
I don't know. I can't say, because I think that the level of investment in brick and mortar offices have been just so, like, there's been so much of an investment there that I don't see it really going away. I think they're gonna just try to find more ways to bring people into the office to some degree. That's just a prediction. I don't know if it's 100%, but like you were mentioning with Amazon, because this is about Amazon, right?
Yes.
So it's funny because several Amazon recruiters have reached out to me. And once I made it clear that I'm not coming into no office, I'm not moving, I'm not relocating, and they're like, well, we might have remote roles in the future for some things, but right now we're doing it in the office. So yeah, I don't know.
But at 372 with those RSUs, I was gonna move.
Word, yeah.
Facts. But you got kids, family. Yeah.
You just bought a house, man. We just bought a house here in like a brand new house. So I'm like, nah, we're not moving. I'm not, and I wouldn't want to. I don't want to uproot for a company, really, at this at this point, because then I'm further away from my family. Then my wife had to get readjusted. She has to find somewhere to work. Got to find babysitters and everything. So it's just dependent upon where you are in life. But
facts. That's it. I'm at a part now where I was where you at. Now I'm on the other side, and I got divorced. So it's just me, right? I can just pick up and
you got an empty nest. You got an empty nest. You don't really got all that. Yeah,
man. Facts. I was gonna go to the Philippines and give me something young and cute. No, that's a joke. Don't be red pill.
Listen, ain't nothing wrong with that shit.
Let me read on. Let me read these last paragraphs. We're gonna keep going. And this what once again threw me off. Evidence is as evident does. As return to work office battle heats up in the last 6 months, they've been marked in declarations that remote work is less productive. By diving deeper into evidence reveals flawed logic. The media industry obsessed with proving bosses right. The study had most often been used to argue for necessity of in-office work in July was National Bureau of Economics, which randomly assigned data entry workers at companies in India to work either from home or in office for 8 weeks. The researchers determined that the workers were 18% less productive in their in-person counterparts. Journalists consistently cited the study without, it seems, taking a moment to consider the finding. First and foremost, it's farcical to use the work of entry-level data entry workers in India, which were recruited specifically for the study, as a proxy for all employees in all industries around the world. Secondly, the measure of this productivity was net speed, or number of correct entries that made per minute. The drop in productivity is really how fast people could put numbers into a data sheet. But this is not what most people do at remote work.
What type of metric is that? How fast you can put something, type some numbers.
It was data entry, so I think they were just doing, like you said, that wasn't a viable study. Yeah.
They're
But
reaching. They're reaching.
That's what people do, and that's why we always say do your own research, right? So
less productive. I feel like people are working more when they work from home.
I do. Yeah, I do. I'm always rolling up to bed, or even if I hear something ding on my computer at 8, I'll log in and see, okay, who dinging on my computer? Is this
right?
Because a lot of times I want to get ahead, but two is. And I might play this called the doom loop. Long story short is when you have office space, and a lot of big companies have office space, when you have less people in there, right? There's less tax money that the city collects for those people. Then you get this cycle. It's called a doom loop.
I was going to ask you about that. I was going to say, do you think that one of the elements going back into work, is it like a nationalism thing? Definitely helps with like cities and states and municipalities, but also nations, because if everybody could work remotely, a lot of U.S. work like that becomes more of a world economy. Are you guys right? So do you think it's some of that too? You want to stay home?
Yeah, there's two things in there. Number one is those big companies bought a lot of real estate, right? And even a lot of middle companies, their executives buy real estate and let the company pay them back. And if you look, any big company, I'm in Indiana, when Salesforce came in, we gave them $100 million of tax breaks.
Yeah.
So if you're not buying real estate and you ain't got people in, we want our money back, right? So those two. Then the other thing that really I understood it, but it caught me off guard, is all the smaller companies and restaurants downtown told the governor, bring those people back. We voted for you. You got 40,000 people at your fingertips. So they cut down the cafeteria. I was a consultant for the state of Indiana. They said, bring your ass in and go out to lunch and help the restaurants, because they're like, we voted for you. So they went to the economic whatever for the state of Indiana. They were like, governor, get them people back here, which makes sense. If I was a small restaurant, I pay taxes. Get the people back downtown, man.
Yeah.
You got 40,000 people at your fingertip. We want all that money because we trying to get back from C-19. Right. So that's part of that doom loop. So I think those are two big things that, which as a governor, I understand that. That doesn't
make sense. Bolstering the economy of your state or your or your nation. Yeah.
And that's why we try to think. Just because I don't like it don't mean I don't understand it, right? PBO ain't coming in, but I understand why he would do that with those people.
Now then, but then don't you think that can be fought against if you say, at least you live in the same state, but you can work remotely? No, can't you get some of those same benefits?
Well, you can, but if I'm a company and I buy real estate, I need you to come in from the company standpoint. And if I'm a restaurant, I need to get you downtown.
Everybody's using DoorDash and Postmates and Uber Eats.
Yeah, but
those companies are still being patronized. Yeah,
there is. But if I'm in the office, a lot of times you're not gonna DoorDash, right? You're gonna be like, well, I'm just gonna walk to this little restaurant here where I normally do. Yeah. I mean, unless you bring your lunch, but a lot of times, we downtown, we're like, let's go get us a little. We go as a team, have a little team building lunch, right? And you talking about 40,000 state employees. So that's a lot of people.
Listen, I've been to some of those, like those restaurants, Chipotle, them type of chains. They are not hurting. They literally have. I've seen like they have a whole section on the side to say DoorDash, Uber Eats, Postmates. So I'm thinking that a lot of those businesses are still being patronized, but
I'm thinking about thinking about the sit down restaurant. I think Chipotle. There's like five, you know when you sit down to a smaller restaurant, even though they're trying to do it, but I think a lot of their thing is usually big lunch or big dinner. And a lot of times we would take early dinner. If we work like till 6, we would just hit a dinner and cut out. All that's gone, and you talking about 40,000 people, right? So that's a large amount of revenue, I think, because now you see a lot of restaurants closing, right? So I think, but like you said, the Chipotles and all of those Subways, they're pretty good because they got that. But those sit down kind of mom and pops, they done.
I think it's even worse at times. I remember because I was doing like a co-op while I was in college for the Department of Defense. So I used to work at a Army base every like summer. time. So we would even go to the movies sometimes.
Facts,
We
yeah.
would even go as a group to the movies, or like go to like a little diner, sit down diner, and play cards when things
Yeah.
were really slow. So
Yeah.
I think it's a bit of
Let's
that
go
too.
on. Like you said, like I said, for us, we got 40,000 people in the
Yeah,
work kind of around downtown. And that's a lot of people, man.
it's a
Even if you got
lot.
them back even if you brought them back 3 days a week, that would definitely help. Let me see what my man A3 would say. Working in ISP, we got a lot of calls with customer jobs blaming us for their connectivity issues. Got to buy a static IP for half these firewalls or whatever to work right. It's never ISP fault. No, facts. And I think that's making a lot of ISP money, right? Since I work from home now, I got the highest bandwidth to try to help, and now I'm YouTubing. So
That's what I got too.
my bed. Well, I take that back. I got the second. I got 5,000 up and down. I guess they got 10,000 up and down. I'm like, I don't even know if my computer can handle that. So
Man,
I got the 5. Go ahead.
Man, no, I'm right there with you. Like I got the highest plan that I could possibly get in order to make sure that my internet is reliable for work. And so
Facts, right.
yeah, I'm right there with you.
Especially Teams is. I use Teams the most big company. Teams is heavy,
Yep.
but once you get it working, man, it's like I said, I get a lot of productivity out. I'm trying to make it a feature. Like every week, I call a different person on my team and do a face to face. Try to go through some stuff to try to get that networking. Since we don't have, I'm calling that the electronic water cooler, right? Try to keep your name out there, because
it could be different. In consulting, it can be difficult, or other tech companies, because at times you might be so busy to the point where you're like, I just want to put my head down, get this work done, because this thing has been continuously like zooming around in my mind. And sometimes that networking internally can be difficult to do.
Oh, it is.
When you're so busy all the time.
Because everybody wants to come in your office and start jibber jabbering. I'm like, dude, I got shit to do, man. I need a piece, right? So, but let's see what
when we get interns. Sometimes interns just want to chop it up or kind of pick your brain about stuff. I'm like, put about 15, 20 minutes on my calendar.
You got to schedule it, right? So
yeah.
Let's see what AK said. They want people back in the house to justify their reason for letting workers go during it. No, I agree with that. I think it's a way to let people go, but we always talk about that, man. They hired before C19 too heavy, so now I think. Well, I did a video. AWS, Azure, and Google, they were overhiring engineers just to have them on deck, right?
Heavily.
And the reason they did that is now they could cherry pick the best dudes now and cut them. Right.
Man, I went through several. That's when I went through several rounds of Google interviews for several roles. It was literally 2020. It was during the pandemic. Like they were really trying to bring people in around that time.
I did that AWS. AWS tore me up, but they were. I think they had it was crazy. Like they had 600 engineers. I think they were interviewing. It was crazy.
Easily.
It was crazy. So JL, would you consider a Price Pro lifestyle professional? Maybe PBO was 35, he 55. So I don't think I'm gonna be jetting off to.
Man, ain't nothing wrong with relocating. Actually, that's one of my goals. Like for me and the family to live internationally for a short period of time, several months, or maybe to a year or something, so the kids can, and we can experience another country as a family. So I don't think there's nothing wrong, man. I don't think there's nothing wrong with that.
Now, I think the weird thing is I worked for Fortune 500 pharmaceutical. They were going to hire me, and I was going to be an executive track. And I was married at the time, and I was worried to be on the executive track. You got to go 2 years to a foreign country. And all the dudes I know went to Japan for 2 years and loved it. But I'm like, I'm by the way, my ex probably, because I didn't have really. My son was probably 15 or 16. He would have went, but I ain't have no little kids. But a lot of bigger companies, I think Black Heights did that. You have to go to a foreign country for a couple of years because they want you to get that global perspective.
No, yeah, you're right. I remember I used to work for Ford. I was working as an electrical engineer. So I was working as what you call a wire harness design engineer. And when I went down there to Mexico, I went down there for work, and they had several. I found a Chinese company or a Chinese couple that moved down there with Ford, and they had their whole family. They had a house and everything, and they invited me over and everything. I'm like, what? Like you just relocated? Yeah, they said this is, they had us relocate down here for a certain period of time to learn the business. So yeah,
So
if you work for a global company, you had those type of opportunities.
Yeah, but I was surprised when they said that. Once again, they were trying to get me to get out of the program, and I was doing a lot of risk assessments for them from a pharmaceutical portfolio perspective. So it was kind of interesting. So let's see what AK. Plus, if companies aren't keeping proper metrics for work from home workers, then they could justify your job should still exist. My thing, AK, I work in a right to work state. They can fire you for any damn thing. They don't have to play with the metrics. If they want to get you, they go get you, man. It's just like, hey, your job is not needed anymore. So especially what's your take on that, man? I don't think they want to get rid of you. They don't need to make up metrics or
if they want to get rid of you, they just get rid of you. They just get rid of you. But at times it can be a little bit different. Well, I don't know. It's always some company politics, but if they want to get rid of you, they just get rid of you. Yeah.
Let's see what 8317. My supervisor tell us to report the morning in a shift. What we did when we work remote. If you let us sit and chill in the office while I ask us at home is that's true. Like since I'm a little higher up, my boss gives me assignments from contracts. I had to do an incident response exercise. I had to set it up. I had to show reports. I do a lot of tax work, so showing them tax policies and procedures. So my place usually lined up, and I'm ticking them off. So for me, it's like, dude, you know what you assigned me to work, so you can see if I'm doing it or not. So let's see, the C-19 destroyed the Dune Loop, and all the big companies that brought CREs are the ones who are really doomed. Well, the C-19 said everybody, but now that's why they're trying to get everybody back in so they can get those taxes and not lose their real estate and get the real estate paid for. But my thing is, and I'll take your take on it. If I'm an old stodgy company, I have real estate. If I'm new, cutting edge, trying to get angel investors, it's like cloud. I'm not letting you buy a data center. You're gonna be in AWS. Why would I let you buy real estate? You could work from home, and I can cut out your data center and your real estate costs. So that's what I think the future for a certain level of companies. Now it can't be for everybody, but if I'm a new company, I'm trying to be nimble. I'm trying to do something novel, especially with technology. I'm not owning real estate because real estate's a big cost. What's your thoughts on that, man? What's your thoughts on that?
No, I agree with you. I don't have much more to say about that one.
Okay. So, Let's see. 317 PBL hitting Mass Ave and lunch pit. Facts, man. Facts. I'll be at I'll be downtown. I'll be Fogo de Chao and sometime at lunch, which that's why I'm fat, man. I'll be getting that never-ending meat at Fogo de Chao Brazilian restaurant. I tell them keep cutting, keep it on green. I've been Fogo de Chao. So
I just recently got a nutritionist, man. So I got an app where I got to put in all my meals and. He be messaging me like, man, you went over your fats, or you got to add some protein. Here's a workout for the day. This how many reps. So I think that's necessary for these days.
Facts, man. I need to get on that.
Really intentional.
Yeah, I do it too. Is we talked about that and shout out to the doctor. We need to take better care of our health, and I think eating, especially, I be stressed eating when a lot of people be getting on me, man. I be eating.
It be the same way. Stress eating, same way. When I'm super busy, I'm just looking for something to eat. Yeah, man, I'm right there with you.
Let me read this paragraph. Other outlets cite studies that examine productivity of 10,000 workers at an Asian IT service company. The central claim seems to be tailor-made for right to home work. Right to office work. The research estimated productivity shortfall of 8 to 19% when workers transition from working at home to working at the office to working home. The study authors found only slightly decline in output, but acknowledged workers were stressed out their working hours at home. Those things together show a drop in productivity. Here too, there are issues. Outputs in the case refer to performance against a semi-annual goal on a performance metric, like lines of useful code written by a developer. The author described these metrics as objective and tracked, but the actual composition of the metrics is still pretty vague and based on managers' interpretations of their value. Additionally, hours worked were logged by employee surveillance software. We just saw the lady was cooking, but these sorts of tools come with plenty of problems, and then we sketchy, and some of them are illegal actually. But the thing about it that kind of threw me off, it said the productivity dropped, but the workers stressed out their working hours. So I'm assuming they're working more hours because they were stressed out. But maybe I'm reading into that. What's your thoughts on that?
I agree. People be stressed out, man. A lot of times, yeah.
They'll be stretched out. So let me keep reading a couple more of these paragraphs while we
Mhm.
fight to this. You notice a lot of these studies focus on call centers, the Stanford research,
Right.
and this roundup of productivity. That's likely because they're extremely controlled and heavily micromanaged. True for
So that's so
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, pause.
No, go ahead.
But that's the thing, like call centers, data entry. I don't think that represents
Facts.
a lot of like those remote roles where
Facts.
you can just do your same job at home easily,
Facts. Facts.
right? So just like you mentioned, like in a call center, you got somebody walking over your shoulder, watching everything that you do, tracking how many calls you done made. You can't say so. It's a little bit different. So maybe they're focusing on like the lower skill roles where people are
Facts.
much more replaceable than like some
Facts.
of those tech roles where that's where a lot of those remote roles have transitioned to. So
No, I agree with that. The crazy thing though is, I worked in one of those for a while. Is we were looking through Teams while you were typing, so we can look and see what you're doing. If you're making
right.
any errors, we recording your screen so we can review them at the end. So I'm like,
Hmm.
dude, you can do that remotely, right? For
Yeah.
more control. But two is they wanted to, like you said, be able to run up on somebody. They would put up a red flag and a supervisor would come and see. I'm like, you can do the digital red flag and I can look and see what you're typing, but they thought the synergies were different in person. So
Yeah.
that was one of the things. So let me keep reading. Has anyone, as somebody who's been writing for about the subject for years, since 2012, I've yet to read a single piece of research to convincingly back up the assertion that we need to be in the office. And yet, major media outlets have continued to feed the boss's narrative that we do better work together. The existing studies continue to fail to evaluate real work, like you just said. Instead, they prioritize speeds, betraying the same corporate ignorance, forcing people back in the office. The studies and the return to office push often betrays an utter ignorance of the workplace and work itself, both in structure and output. I think he's a little rough calling people ignorant. From my
Yeah.
point of view, once again, I think, and I talked to my bosses before I left. A lot of those guys are MBA trained. Their MBA is trained working with people that are in house that they're comfortable with. They're face to face. They can read those cues. I think
Hmm.
managing remote work is a different type of management, right? And I think we're getting our hands around it, right? Even
Yeah.
though I don't think I ever go back in the office, but I can understand there are problems coming in from a management perspective. What's your
Yeah.
thoughts on that, man? Let's go
So
there.
yeah, managing people is different, and maybe it's also like I'm kind of like I wouldn't say I'm a newer manager. I've been a manager for several years now, but I do, like I said before, I find it difficult to connect with my team, like really know who they are. But at the
Mhm.
same time, everybody like I manage very senior people, so they're kind of off and running and doing whatever they got to do anyway. They don't really need my mentorship. They need more of my help in the event that they have an issue with something. So maybe it's a combination of the type of people I manage and also the fact that I don't have very junior people that
Facts.
don't need me all the time. So you know, it's a yeah, managing is challenging, I would say.
No, I feel you. That's why I
Yeah.
got out of it. But shout out to Black Heights donating to the barbecue fund, even though PBO needs to go on there. And he's one of the guys I recommend if you get into tech sales. That's something I'm comfortable with, but he's definitely pushing to cut sales. Check out his Patreon. I'll probably join it. He's showing W2s. He's doing a lot of good work. The cool thing about tech sales and get struggle knows about this is now when you sell stuff, security gets to go along with the sales team because people are asking more and more security questions before they buy a big product. So
Yeah.
I might try to get some of that commission on tech sales as security. Long story short, when people sell stuff to the state I work for, I had to review all their software. I had to talk about encryption, FIPS
Mhm.
140-2, which is government approved encryption. How you doing your database? Are the web servers encrypted? Are you using TLS or HTTPS? We know SSL is not secure. You got to be doing TLS 1.2, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So,
Right.
but shout out to him. I'm not a tech sales guy. And two is he does the I'm calling mentorship,
Mhm.
the career development. PBL don't do that. PBL talk to you, and I'm gonna send you to a couple people. Black Heights will be one of them. I don't know if Gabe's gonna get into that mentor career development. PBO don't do that. Go ahead.
This is what I was thinking about, right? Because I'm thinking about maybe doing some things like some type of services, but at the same time, I'm like, because I get so many questions. And I would like to give the appropriate time to answering people's questions rather than just a quick, like, yeah, do this, this, and that, and this, and that. Where I can maybe like answer like 3 main questions and kind of set them on the path. But I wouldn't just do that just free because, that's biting into my time. So I was thinking about doing something.
Yeah, I've been doing that for free, but like you said, it's a lot of time. But 2 is your time is a little more valuable, right? You're young, you got the family, you got kid on the way. PBO gets lonely sometimes, so you like talking to a few people. So
you like chatting it up.
So, but 2 is I always tell people is I have a certain specialty, right? So if you ask me about red team or SOC, I know you don't do a lot of SOC. I send red team. I say go check to my man Struggle and go check the textual chatter because
some people have come to me too, and I'm like, man, like, I wish I had the time. Like I don't have the time to answer all the questions.
My fault.
No, it's all good.
But so for me, though, I always tell people you need to get multiple opinions, right? I've got a certain skill set and I got a certain lens, and I'm old, right? There's some new stuff coming up, and I just want people to know I'm giving you my opinion. You need to get multiple opinions, right? Yeah. So especially if you're talking red, I got an opinion on red team, but I've never got dirty in red team. That's something I've done. I've never worked in the SOC. I looked at a few logs from that, so I don't really do a look. Now I've gave requirements to them for the SIM. What should they insert? What's the event? But that's different than working in the SOC and going through logs and using SIMs to get it, and blah, blah. That's a whole different. Trying to decompile malware. I ain't done none of that. So I try once again. I tell people my opinion. And Black Hike, shout out to him. Go check out his channel, Textual Chatter. So there's a lot of people that does that type career development. I'm just not set up to do that. I might start doing. I might start doing it in the GRC perspective. But right now, you call, I'll probably give you 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Because you like me. Most people ain't gonna ask me. Most people ain't gonna ask me stuff that I gotta look up. If it's GRC, especially, what you hate, if it's Stig or something, I can do that shit off the top of my head. I don't need to look nothing up, right?
But then that's the thing. Like, I know you mentioned that you said that my time is more valuable. Your time is valuable too, right? Because the time that you spent acquiring those skills, developing them over the years and everything, it's like we're both giving shortcuts to the information.
Oh, facts. But for me,
that's where that value comes.
Comes
from, in my opinion.
Right, but I'm signed up personally for something where that I'm gonna give some of that away. PBO was kind of not in his 20s. If I'm trying to get in heaven, I want to say, God, I did a little something to get in. I did a little work, right? So I'm giving some of my nuggets away. So, but facts, but like I said, people gonna value their time. Like I said, it's just me. I'm divorced. I see my grandkids. So sometimes, I like to. And sometimes I get excited when I talk to young people. They get me energized. Like, okay. I remember when that was me, right? One guy told me out of Australia, he goes, which I thought was really deep. He goes, "You the only one to answer my questions. Everybody else wants, God wants to get paid or some other thing." But I told him, like you said, though, I said their time's worth money, right?
It is, and then I know Akinyemi has had a statement in there. He says making a FAQ could go a long way. That's the thing is that everybody. So a FAQ answers very surface level questions.
Facts.
But everybody wants like a tailored answer.
Facts.
Because you'll answer something basic like what search do I get or what, but it's like, okay, where are you in your search journey? Facts. Do you have any previous experience? Some people can skip search altogether if they have years and years of experience. They might need to network and show more of their experience. Like I know I talked to one brother. He has a lot of pen testing experience or years of pen testing experience. He's just trying to land a role. Or I'm sorry, he has IT administration experience. He wants to land a role in pen testing. He's done stuff. So, people want tailored answers. And that tailored comes with time, and that time is money.
And that's what
that's just me.
No, you like me is, and that's the value of the answer, right? If you give it, like you said, high level, super high level, right? It's not gonna be as valuable to the person.
Yeah.
Like one person reached out to me and they were already working at the state. So I walked them. I said, "Cool, you at the state." He was doing IT auditing. I said, "These are the compliance you need to learn from your state." So we looked at the state. These are the agencies These are the agencies you can get into.
Yeah.
These are the search you need to do to make sure you get in these agencies. These are the 4 agencies you need to look at once you
Yeah.
get over your experience with these search. I guarantee you can get in. Right.
That's very
Right.
tailored. That's
That's
very
very
specific to where that person is in their career journey. So yeah,
and I
man.
look, and we looked up to those agencies. You know, I think he could get like a $25,000 raise in a year if he got on one of the bigger agencies at the
Listen,
state. Because I worked at a state for
that's the
9 years.
shortcut. That's
Right,
the
that's a
shortcut.
shortcut.
Yeah.
Right.
You giving them the shortcut.
Right,
So
you said it's super tailored because that's where the
yeah.
value comes at. Let's see what
Yeah.
my man Justin Williams said. Turn out opportunities because they are downtown. When the commute to downtown is horrible, and
Yeah.
sometimes you still got to pay for parking. Don't get me started on paying for. No, facts, right, Justin? You're 100%. And the crazy part is, and I said this. He said he's in Houston too. Yeah, that's a different
Yeah.
animal. The cool thing is, I've only driven 4,000 miles last year on my car.
Oh wow.
Because I haven't been
Yeah,
anywhere.
gas is nothing anymore. Like you don't even hear people complaining about gas really like that.
So I don't drive. A lot of times I can cook for myself. So I'm saving a ton. I went to my dry cleaner's cool guy. He goes, man, people not working is killing me. I
Yeah.
get a few things dry. When I was working downtown, I was getting all this stuff dry clean. I was
Yep.
coming in because even though I was casual, I had my golf shirt and my slacks. I had to get my slacks clean. But
Yep.
that I don't go there very much anymore because I don't, this what you see here is what I work in damn near every other day. I got a black shirt on,
Yeah.
and some slacks, right? But
Hoodie, track suit. Yeah.
So you save a ton of money on that. So
A ton of money. I actually gave up my vehicle. Me and my wife are just down to one vehicle.
Oh
now
wow, man.
because I don't need it. So why pay
No,
insurance on
facts.
something that I don't even use? So yeah, it's been
No,
years though. So we pay hers off and we just go with one, and that's it.
Yeah. And that's the two, and I think that's the hidden savings. A lot of times, people say they'll take a little less pay because they're killing it in other areas.
Yeah.
And for me, one guy, and I said it touched my soul. It was a
Mhm.
young guy. He said the microaggressions of going in the office was just taking him out.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm old, man. I don't want no microaggressions. I'm not trying to. Shout out to Gabe. He going through the corporate ladder, trying to get to the top. The next CISO, CTO. PBO ain't trying to do none of that.
But you know my stories though. Like I've dealt with that stuff even remotely. So I think that company politics exists no matter if you're going in or staying at home. But it is less. It is less when you are working from home. Significantly less. So I definitely agree with the brother there. I could see that.
Shout out to Black Heights. Let's see
what did he say? He said we be hating.
Yeah, man, he's
What's up, man? What's up, Black Heights? What's up?
No, shout out. He right. Because when they come in, I'd be like, I need all these security checks, and we can't buy jack. Yep. I had Microsoft. I told the story. Microsoft sent a lobbyist talking negatively about a PLPO because I told them one of their products was crap.
Yeah.
So long story, my CEO blacked me up. He said I trust him, so they brought a team just to talk to PBO because I was laying them down. Hey man, you FSMA, I need these checks.
Yikes.
These checks. If you ain't these checks, we can't buy it. Nah, but he right. InfoSec do be slowing us up. But check us out, Black Heights. We making sure we don't get sued when everybody gets hacked. We got back in.
We making sure there's not a whole bunch of White House press releases about what people need to do to increase their security for their public organizations. So
yeah, fact. So, but that's the thing that probably happened in we bringing it out for the companies I work for as procurement.
Yeah.
I did a video on that. So when you call in there, you got to have procurement. We got it from a cybersecurity perspective. The crazy thing now is I started checking it from DPA, which is data processing, from a legal perspective. I read an agreement. It says if their third party service got us hacked, we were responsible. We're like, dude, we're not indemnifying you for $100 million if you get us hacked. Right. So you got to read those contracts. Once again, check it out. I got a procurement, but security needs to review any incoming service or software, and legal needs to review the contract, right? But that's for big companies, and that's how you look at it, and that's how you have to get it set up. You got any thoughts on that? But no, Black Heights, right? I'm reviewing everything, man. I might shut it down. He right. Let me read a couple more paragraphs. Despite the limited evidence, right? No evidence. Corporations are interested in killing remote. They can kill it, man. It's their company. I'm not, it's the right way. They can kill it if they want. Corporate statement about these decisions never seems justified. To shift beyond platitudes about togetherness, vagueness about culture, look deeper through and reveal the rotten. Roblox, the company that derives revenue from digital world, reverses flexible work policy in October. telling employees that if they didn't work at least 3 days in the office in the week, they'd be laid off. The reason
Yep.
for the about face, based on the CEO David Human's blog announcing the move, it seemed mostly about vibes. So, what's your thoughts? And once again, CEOs can do that. It's their
Yeah.
company.
Their company.
But two is I have decision if I want to stay for that company, right? So that goes
that's the
both
thing.
ways. Go ahead. I'm gonna let you chime in on that.
I think even though they are kind of laying down the law as it concerns those 3 days in, and I think that that's more the new norm. The thing too is that, man, those companies that are okay with people being remote are very much so willing to pick you up. There's still roles out there. It's just not as many. It's just not as many as there were during the pandemic. So, I think, like I was saying before, like with consulting or even kind of negotiating that. Like I know that I was negotiating, so it was for some director roles that I ended up not taking. They wanted me to, so they were saying that they want somebody to come into the office 3 days a week. And I was like, I can't. I'm not doing that. But what I could do is that maybe I can come in to the office a week every month, right? Or because this was in a different state. Like a week or two every month, something like that. So I fly in, I'm there for a week, but the other 3 weeks, I'm there remotely. So, they were more malleable to that, right? Rather than just saying, I want to just work 100% remote. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think
there might be some flexibility if you got some skills.
Facts, and that's it. But you brought this up, and I want to give you shout out to that. If you're young and you're trying to get skills, they're gonna have less flexibility with that. And I remember you brought that up. One of the tech Avengers, I almost put that in the subject line.
yeah, man. We still got to chop it up on that. I know that Amri came up and we started chopping it up.
Yeah.
We gotta.
Two is I don't know if you want to have it or whoever. I threw it out. We got to do what's your personal goals for 2024? What are you trying to learn? What search are you trying to get? So I'm gonna let you do that. I'll come on, but I think we need to.
Man, you can do it. We could do it. Yeah, like hey, it's whatever. It's whatever.
Now shout out to me. I think I shot you an email, Demond. Let me make sure if you got it. I'm off tomorrow. Shout out to Veterans Day. I'm off tomorrow. Go ahead.
It's a national holiday, right? So yeah, I should be off. Off too.
Some private companies weren't off though.
No.
All the companies weren't off, so I had to look on there. But now reach out to me. Like I said, I think I try to slot you at 1 if you want to do something. If that date tomorrow don't work for you, Demond, just let me know. We can make that happen. But 2 is once again is. I understand capitalism. I understand so I don't get upset when people make adjustments. I need to make sure I'm making my moves 2 or 3. Because a lot of times, if they're going to do that, people are signaling stuff like, "Yeah, we thinking about 3." Oh yeah, I'm already out of there. I'm interviewing, right? So it goes both ways, right? But once again, I think that's going to be a perk or something for. Just let me know if you didn't get it. Just let me know too. Shoot me another email. I think I sent it back to you. But so I think that's a perk for smaller companies. And I see a lot of venture capital. They're not letting you buy data centers, and I don't think they're gonna let you buy offices unless you got something you need to build in the United States. But hell, Apple builds this phone all across the world, man. So I think that's the blueprint. I don't think that's good for the United States. I think it's a race to the bottom. I think we need to start building stuff. But from a cost perspective, agile work perspective, people building Nike's shoes for what $5 a day and selling them for 200, right?
Yeah.
So I understand that profit motive some, right? So shout out to Free Zone Lou in the house.
Oh, Lou's here. Hey, what's up?
Lou, be chop shoot the game.
Hey, what's up?
Let's see. Let me keep reading while we get it. But so I personally hope that for our culture and type of work, it might be possible to imagine a heavily hybrid culture. They were pivotal moments for me when I had our first post-quarantine in-person group gathering. Within 45 minutes, I came away with 3 separate conversations with spontaneous do's and ideas to put in motion, and something that hadn't happened in the past few years. This is my man from Roblox. Once again, they're a technology game company, so it's kind of interesting. Nike has a 4-day at work week. Damn, white policy, power and energy that comes from working together in person. Geico said its return to office program was meant to foster a sense of community and connection and offer little data to support the decision. The only numbers in the announcement appeared to be about layoff. Geico said it was letting 2,000 people goal to sustain a long-term profitability and growth, suggesting while layoffs can be evaluated with the data, in-person work can only be backed up by mood rings. So this guy's kind of hating on that. So I want to put that out. He's like
That's
me.
funny.
I think he's pushing his agenda. So I want to
Yeah.
be fair on that. I'll let you chime in on that.
Well, that's another thing. I think really at the end of the day, you need to look at what you want from the job market, right? A lot of organizations, 3 days a week, 4 days a week, be in the office or back to the office completely. If you don't want that, I think that you should look for opportunities that are not that. Because what happens is that in the event that some of these layoffs happen, they don't care. They don't care nothing about you. So you need to look out for what your best interest is, what aligns the best with yourself, and be willing to say no. Be willing to say no to a job role that is not aligned. Like I know I pretty much had this role. They wanted me to start to travel about 50% of my time.
Ooh.
So you're talking about 2 weeks or so, a week. I mean a month.
Yeah.
So as a result, because we were building up the practice, so I would be responsible for that line of business, but at the same time, I was going to be responsible for hiring more people. I was going to have one other senior consultant on my team, and then I had to hire like 2, 3, 4, 5 people, but I needed to make that business justification.
Yeah.
And you know what that means? I need to take the hits early. I need to show that I'm traveling 50, 75% before I'm able to hire on another body in order to support the work. And I'm like, I'm just not willing to do that. So the same thing as it concerns the remote roles. If you're not willing to do that, if you're not willing to go into the office, man, look for those opportunities, seek those out, and look for those skills that align with more of what you're looking at, because they'll let you go you go if it's in their interest. So you need to say no to them if it's in your best interest too. So
yeah, but I think just to touch, you're 100% right. But just to touch on that, especially young guys, you got to have the skill set to warrant remote work now, because the jobs are small. And every time when I was applying, like I said, I got lucky and got it. Yeah. There was 300 people applied. I made it to the last three times. They're like, oh yeah, we had over 200 people. You're special because you made it 3, but I didn't get the damn job. Right? So I wasn't that special, right? I didn't get it in the end, right? I finally got one, but appreciate you auditing with Addy. I dropped the link if you want to come up, but anybody could come up. But I think too is, and I think a lot of people are selling that too easily. I'm gonna push back on some of the guys. So you're not gonna get a certain 3 months to get a remote work for job unless you got a certain skill set to go with that. Right? I see a lot of people saying. I had a young lady reach out to me from the continent. She was like, well, do you think I can get remote work from Africa? I said, no, but let me do a little research. I thought, I'm like, well, India's getting a ton of remote work, but I don't think that's GRC remote work. I think that's call center remote work and a little help desk for an entry.
Just administration or SOC. It's like
developers,
MSPs,
and developers maybe, because that's a certain skill set. So I think you got to look at what skill set you have and what remote job you're trying to get. Now, if you're a killer architect in Azure and AWS and you got some experience, you got it. You're going to kill the game, right? So I think we got to be realistic.
Yeah.
Right. Especially with them cutting down remote work. Like I said, if you go on Indeed, all the remote jobs be like 100 people, 200 people applying for those jobs. It'd be senior people applying for middle jobs because they're cool with that pay cut because they don't want to leave the house. So so your competition is even greater in that part. So
I absolutely agree with you. And on that note, I actually got to drop down. I got to do stuff at home. All right, man. I'll talk to you later, man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming up. I appreciate you. Peace. Let's see. We're adding 50-50 on telework, but 3 days either way is good. No, I'm not doing that all that way. But no, you're right. I think especially as a younger person coming up in the game, the kids, the companies you've seen them. We're gonna keep reading these articles. There was 3 companies want you to come in 3 days or 4 days a week. So I think the companies, and we talked about it. Some of it's real estate. Once again, I worked at the state of Indiana. All the small restaurants complained downtown because they told the governor, we voted for you. You got 40,000 people at your fingertips. We want them back downtown going to lunch, right? We want them downtown going to the mall, right? So I'm not delusional. I understand why he did it. I just don't want to do it, right? So I think, like Gabe says, Struggle Security, make sure you go subscribe to his channel. You got to do what's best for you and your family. But I don't want you to take things unrealistically and think these roles are easy to get, right? Especially people want those big dollar roles remote. There's hundreds of people get them. So number one is, and like my man said, you got to grind and just get your skills up, right? And once you get your skills up, then you can be in a mix to get those. All right, a lot of people trying to get entry level jobs, right? So you got to get your skills up. You got to get in the door, right? So you can get experience, so you can get in there. So sometimes, the easier ways to do that is to actually go in, right? Which sucks, right? I'm not advocating, but I think sometimes that's the best way to get your foot in the door because you cut down your competition by 80 or 90%. All right. When I interview for security jobs in the state of Indiana, there's not a ton of guys. Once again, when I go on Indeed and I was applying to be like 300 people apply for this job, 250 people apply for this job, right? So two is I'm old. I got to get a couple certs. So if I don't have certain certs, they're cutting me out, right? No matter how much experience I got, right? Because they get 300 resumes, so you got to start cutting people on certain aspects. That doesn't mean it's right, but you got to start cutting down your pool of applicants. Let's see, portfolio E. So let's be. Do you have time for mentorship session? Yeah, reach out to me on ProfessorBlackOps@gmail.com. Check my about. I'm setting up some about 15 or 20 minutes. I'll probably talk about 3 or 4 people tomorrow. So yeah, do that. I'm off tomorrow. So I said I was gonna talk to 2 or 3 people tomorrow. But yeah, so just reach out to me. ProfessorBlackOps@gmail.com. You can go to my about page on YouTube. You'll see it. There's probably 3 or 4 people I talked to in the chat that'll tell me I get back with you. But yeah, I'm trying to set up a few tomorrow. Just reach out to me. We can make that. But let's keep reading this inside. Let's see what they're talking about. This announcement's almost always issued by executives who probably won't be subject to the same kind of check-in and rank and file. Nobody's asking Amazon Andy's Jaser or Geico's Tom Cool how many days they swiped into Office, and there's no chance Oracle, which instituted a return to work policy, would punish Sarah Crash for. My man Larry Allison, that's how I made my first bag. I was an Oracle DBA in 1995 and I got certified. So that's actually how I got really, really into the game and started making big dollars when I became an Oracle DBA and got certified. Shout out to Oracle and Larry Ellison for spending too little time at their desk. Ironically, complying with vague justifications expose the reality of return to office push. Managers and executives making calls based on perception rather than hands-on data. The modern CEO has become a figurehead, reaping the rewards of work processes that don't meaningful participate in, so they make their choices based on macroeconomic condition, their own biases, or eventually a single 45-minute that left them feeling good, right? So once again, he believes in remote work, so he's a little hard on the CEOs. And two is, shout out to the boomers. That's how they were trained. I got my MBA back there. MBA strictly talks about organizational behavior, which is managing people face to face, right? So I think this new paradigm, and I've been kind of working on that myself, is how do you manage people remotely? How do you manage your executives? A lot of times I do a lot of work for managers, CEOs, CISO. I got to manage them from the bottom. So how do I do that with technology? How do I set up a weekly call with my supervisor? How do I set up a weekly call with the CISO? How do I best deliver reports inside teams, right? Do I do a SharePoint list? Do I do Power BI? Do I just do PowerPoint? I do each one of them. Each one of them has pluses and minuses depending on what level of numbers executive or visualization executives want to see, right? So we need to start mastering technology so we can manage our managers at the top. And shout out to Gabe, managers, subordinates below you, right? And two is my job as a senior guy is to train interns or middle guys. So I want to make sure I'm communicating with them, giving them what they need from me, right? As a consultant, a lot of times I'm not going to stay with the company. I'm not going to be promoted. I get paid a certain amount of money, right? So my job is to train the staff that I'm working with, right? So when they take over, they understand, right? I'm comfortable, training them, right? Because theoretically, I should be there a set amount of time. I say that I was at DOD for 11 years and I was at the state of Indiana for 9 years as a consultant because people think you save your job by hoarding it. When you give people information, right, they want to keep you around. They want to keep attached to you because you add value to them. A lot of people try to hold it, right? Which you think it becomes more value, becomes less valuable because nobody understands it, right? So my job is to train people up and down the chain, right? And it took me probably 15 years to figure that out, right? So that's one thing. That'll be a separate video. But once again, how do you do that from remote work to add value so you can keep doing remote work? So let's see. Nowhere is this more obviously than Meta. I was surprised with Meta. They're once again they're a technology company. Facebook, yeah, that's what you do. Where workers are required to return 3 days a week. The only problem is employees can't find a space of privacy to actually do their work after the office. The issue is almost too on the nose. The honchos calling the shots at Meta, company that caused global discord through its handling of people data, appear to be unaware of how people at the company do their job. More frustratingly, Meta corporate guidelines say that anyone who has worked at the company for 18 months or more can apply to become a permanent remote worker. A nice idea, except the fact that hundreds of people have applied and have yet to hear back. So once again, Meta's struggling with that, which you would think, once again, a company like Facebook would have had that figured out and or mastered, right? And that's kind of the trouble with remote work. I think companies are trying to get their handle around it. There's pluses and minuses. And two is I think managers are struggling with managing remote work. So let's see what my man Don said. We need to welcome him. I recommended a lot of people enter tech to go for on-site jobs. Facts. I just said that way less competition. My opinion. I finally got 6 figures by going in office, and I know. And now the role is hybrid. No, facts. I agree with you 100%, Don. And I tell people too, especially like you said, when you're in a state, especially if you're in cybersecurity, development, even infrastructure, most states don't have a lot of those people. Like you said, when you do it in state, you cut out 95% of your people. Once again, when I was applying for jobs on Indeed, it was 200-300 people applying for those remote jobs, right? Like you said, you cut out probably 95% of your competition. And two is a lot of those people aren't coming back. So I think they're giving more pay when you come in the office. And I think too, that's a way to cut people silently. Quiet firing people. I don't even added. He go subscribe to my man. Go check out his channel. I noticed downtown where I work more and more office building and turning and kind of. Oh yeah, facts. Because they try to figure out what to do with their real estate. So like you said, I think they're trying to work with that and make that happen. And once again, that doom loop with the real estate downtown. I might play that in the end so we can talk about the doom loop and how to make why is that happening and how to stop it, I guess, from happening. Let's see. Let's keep reading, seeing more questions. Let's see, man. I worked hybrid remote for years in healthcare before switching to tech. Let me tell you, I had more work to do from home than I feel like I work way more at home. I feel like it's more accessible. I feel like since I'm home, I'm always working. When I leave the office, man, let's computer on fire. I ain't doing jack. Right. So I think once again, I think you get I work a little more. Like I said, when I'm work remote, I just do it nonstop. And like I said, if I hear my computer ding when I'm at home, I'm definitely gonna look at it. Where I am from, I love to go to high paid fame position. Them kids spoil offers better than my career. Not facts, in fact. And I would tell people, especially if you're young, you need to try to get to one of those fame jobs, make that big money. Because once you say you work for Meta, AWS, Google, Azure, Microsoft, Meta, that keeps your that make your resume stand out. Then you can start looking at CTO jobs, CISO jobs, CIO jobs. Once you work for those huge big companies, get those processes and procedures down. Especially when you talk about Meta, I thought last time I looked, they had 50,000 servers around the world that they deployed to for their app. So just mastering and understanding that A and B testing, you can roll out a new feature and just test it in Brazil before you roll it out to the United States and China because we bigger. So that whole infrastructure build, just that massive infrastructure and how do you build, how do you program, how do you deploy, how do you test, just how do you scale at that level. just touching that, it's going to just shoot your value up on your resume in the future. So definitely, if you can get one of those big time fang jobs, the pay was crazy. I told everybody I interviewed with AWS and failed, but the pay was astronomical. So shout out to them. Let's see. Because I said so, that's what manager said. Creating, sustaining positive and productive corporate culture takes work. It requires managers and executives who truly understand the product their employees are putting out and what is required to create that product. That makes the move to kill off remote work is frustrating. It's not clear that the return to office move is about making workers more productive or building a better culture. Rather, it's becoming obvious that these mandates are mostly attempt to reestablish a surveillance society that allows managers to skip over tough task of building a company through where people actually want to work, right? Once again, I think that's his opinion. I think from that statement, the part I do agree with, it's the old versus the new. Once again, I think managing people remotely is a different skill set. I think people are becoming accustomed to that. I think as boomers slowly move on, I think the new generations are more comfortable with that. And I think people have a better handle on that. I think the legacy of real estate, as people get handles of that and they pay off their real estate or start selling out their real estate, I think all of that are just play in the hands, right? And people, once again, I think companies, once again, I think in the future, if you building a company, I think they're not letting you build data centers. And I think in the future, unless you're actually manufacturing something in the United States, I don't think people will let you have real estate. Real estate's very expensive. Talking about lights, insurance, just handling upkeep of that. If you're handling agile, something technology focused company, I think remote work is going to be the way for that. I think you might have a small office and you might bring people in for team building once a week. We call it hoteling, where you come in, bring your laptop, do some team building for 2 or 3 days, get adjusted and go back. If you got something super hard, I think that maybe be the future. But once again, that's just kind of PBO's thoughts in the game. Let's see what my man. I do miss after hours. Facts, man. And you got to think, I'm from the 80s. We actually used to drink three martinis in 1985. You could drink 3 martinis after work. In the 90s, they were actually really drinking hard. So now they kind of, like I said, I think that's coming back. But yeah, it was crazy in the 80s, right? So once again, I think it's the new versus the old. And I think in the future, I think that's going to be the big push. RTO, return to office, pushes I watch for investors to prove that drop in revenue and portability aren't the results of poor managerial decision, but the results of lazy workers sitting at home in their pajamas. It comes some cases it's a genius move for executives, a way to establish control over workers during an unprecedented society awareness of labor rights, thanks to the striking workers of UAW, the Writers Guild, and SAG, while shifting the blame and consequences of poor stock performance onto the least responsible. Right. So he think it's a move. I never thought about that. So like you said, management wants to blame workers for their poor management. You at home doing nothing, right? But you should be giving your employees tasks and lists that you should be able to monitor to see how quick they're locking out. Anything you do from a work perspective, you should have a general idea how long it should take them too, right? But once again, maybe I don't think it's poor management. I just think it's once again, that remote management is a different animal and how you make that happen. So having them jobs so niche, I never looked in it. The sad part about it is I had one A317, a good homie of mine. I'm gonna bring him on. He's one of the top salesmen. I was about to get hired, and they had on a hiring freeze. I was on the 3rd interview, about to meet the executives. Then they put on a hiring freeze. They were hiring a ton of federal compliance guys for a while. So I need to reach out to my guy, see if he's still there, and see how he was doing. So I was going to interview him. But yeah, because you where I'm from, they got a nice office downtown. I've been in it a couple of times. So shout out to. There used to be a restaurant in the parking lot called Sam's. I used to eat lunch every day. So I used to meet him like once a week. But yeah, I was trying to get on that Salesforce train for a minute though. Shout out to them. Shout out to Salesforce doing big things. Let's see. While executives may see a return to office push as a good thing, I believe the mandates will only weaken their organization, drive a wedge between management and workers, force in-person attendance without clear goals and reasoning is going to create an outright hostility towards higher-ups. This pointless and petty crusade does nothing to make organization better, leaner, or more productive. All it does is temporarily help executives distract from larger organizational issues. Real management takes responsibilities and make thoughtful decisions based on making the company stronger. The return to office move is the exact opposite, an unproductive push for control that erodes the already tenuous loyalty workers have for their employer while failing to address core problems of managerial competency that will only get worse as these employees flee for dim-witted demands, right? I think that's, he does have a point with that. The problem is they're taking all the good remote jobs, taking them out of pocket. So for you to work, you're gonna have to go in the office unless you got a unique skill set, right? Because the big companies are slowly doing that. So once again, so the few remote work jobs are gonna be so few for a while that people still need to make a living, right? So I understand this hostility towards that, right? But I still think work is gonna be that. So let's see, I'm gonna look up this doom loop real quick and we talk about once again how that real estate is working with that and what is that from a downtown perspective and why is that super popular. Once again, if you got anything in the chat, just put them in the box. Let's see. Let's switch over to the doom loop and talk a little bit more about real estate. Yeah, shout out to Salesforce. Let's see. On the help desk desktop service side of the game, we get our money's worth every day, and there are no slacking up. Now, facts, man. That's a thankless job and a super competitive job. So I agree with you. Let's look at the doom loop, what they're talking about real estate and why I believe they're bringing people back into real estate.
Sky-high interest rates to the reluctance of employees to return to their office.
The impact of higher rates and the banking stress is hurting smaller businesses across the country.
Many of which can be summed up by a controversial new phrase, the urban doom loop.
The environment is certainly shifting on Main Street, and it's weighing on optimism.
Losses at the bank level, right? There's going to be losses at the investors level. And I think for the
So this is why I believe they're making you come in the office from a real estate perspective.
cities, right? They're going to have this potential, this urban doom loop.
Columbia Business School professor Stan Van Nieuwerburgh coined the term. Here's how it all works.
Early in the pandemic, a lot of office sector workers started working from home. And here we are 3 years later, many of them are still working from home at least some of the time. All of that has led to a large reduction in the demand for office. We see a lot of companies downsizing. We see a lot of companies not renewing their leases at all and consolidating. And with this demand decline for office comes declines in the revenues for the owners of those offices and value declines in these offices. Declines in property values reduce property tax revenues for the city. The cities have to balance their budget. They now need to cut spending. That means less money for public safety, for sanitation, for transportation, for education. Makes the city a less attractive place to live. People migrate out, property values fall more, less money, more people moving out, and the city gets into an urban doom loop where its fiscal health spirals down.
At the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, remote work policies prompted many employees to leave their city and move to new states. These population outflows have long-term implications for cities, which rely on tax revenues for funding.
Property tax revenue in New York City is about half of all tax revenue. Commercial property tax revenue is about 10% of all tax revenue. So if the value of that falls by 40%, we're talking about a 4% hole in the budget. So if New York City's budget is $100 billion per year, that's a $4 billion shortfall.
That surprised me when I first saw that. So if you lose 10% of your commercial real estate, that's $10 billion. How do you replace that? So I think that's the reason why people are saying you got to come back to the office, because the state and the city's like, how are we going to replace that?
It has to be made up somewhere else. Rich people pay a disproportionate share of income taxes. In New York, for example, a few thousand taxpayers are paying half of all taxes. Migration has become easier because you can leave the city without leaving your job. So if a few rich people or families leave, that could leave a large hole in the budget. The technology sector has been more permissive to remote work, and so those cities tend to be affected the most. Think of places like San Francisco, Seattle, West Coast cities, sort of.
Yeah, facts. Let's go back to that. Let's see if I can see it.
The technology sector has been more permissive to remote work, and so those cities tend to be affected.
Yeah, we know New York is super expensive. Brooklyn, Chicago, all those are super expensive. So if I could take my money, especially I'm old, man, I ain't trying to party or none of that. I could go to a much cheaper city. Like I'm in Indiana, Indianapolis. I wouldn't call it a major city, decent sized city. Much cheaper than Chicago, much cheaper than Manhattan. And the crazy thing is, a lot of times when you do remote work, they give you East and West Coast salary. So now you taking your 175, 200, 300, and you're in the Midwest, man, you killing the game.
The most. Think of places like San Francisco, Seattle, West Coast cities, sort of more generally.
The urban doom loop isn't just a theory. It's playing out in the real world, with landlords finding themselves financially underwater and regional banks facing a credit crunch.
So when I'm a landlord and I want to buy a building, typically I'm going to buy it with a combination of my own money, my equity, and a piece of debt. Because real estate is such good collateral, banks are generally willing to lend a lot of money. So typically there will be 60, 65, sometimes even 75% debt and 25% equity, right? So that would be a typical financing structure for a commercial real estate building. And then typically the debt will be fixed rate. The only difference is I'm not paying off any principal, which means that 10 years later when my loan comes due, I need to refinance that loan. Now normally that's not a problem, because normally the value of my office will have gone up in these past 10 years. But what if it hasn't? What if the value of my office has in fact gone down? So now the bank will look at that office all over again and reassess it. And to the extent it's even willing to give me a new loan, it's going to only want to give me a smaller loan. So now as a landlord, I'm going to have to make a tough choice. Either I come out of pocket and put more money into the deal because the loan that I'm getting now is smaller than the one I need to repay from 10 years ago. So I put in more equity in the deal, or I walk away, and I have the right to do that. I can send the keys to the lender and just walk. A lot of the debt is non-recourse, which means the bank has no recourse to my other assets. I can just simply take this one office building that I've borrowed against and just send the keys to the bank. The bank now owns the building. So banks are facing this deterioration in basically the credit quality on these commercial mortgages that they have on.
So once again, from the doom loop, the bank is in trouble, right? So the bank's like, okay, everybody comes back to the office. That's what they're saying. You got to come back to the office.
Their books. So these smaller regional banks that have done a lot of local commercial real estate lending, they're now tightening the screws on the credit for the local non-real estate firms as well. That is sort of a traditional credit crunch. Commercial real estate is a very large asset class. There's about $5 trillion of commercial real estate out there. And whether you know it or not, your pension fund might very well have an exposure to commercial real estate.
So now a lot of pension funds. So now do you think your pension's good? You could be in trouble. But two is people forgot Detroit, I think, declared bankruptcy. They didn't wipe out their pensions, but they took a haircut. A lot of it was because of commercial real estate. Shout out to my man, the Broke Genius. Oh, that's why commercial loans are put. Yeah, this is a reason. Shout out to Intentional Millionaire. Go check his channel out. He always has a cool panel of young and upcoming, I think, financial guys giving out great information. I'm usually in the chat bothering those guys, but shout out to him. But yeah, Broke Genius. I'm kind of trying to figure out this from the doom loop. Shout out to Antoine Wade. Not him, but yeah, I seen it on somebody's channel of that doom loop, and it was like I said, eye-opening to me too.
Directly or indirectly. There's also a part of the equity market called the REIT market, which is the publicly listed real estate space. And again, a lot of folks have exposure to that through a mutual fund, through an exchange-traded fund. And those REITs, especially the office REITs, have fallen on hard times in the last several years. Their stocks are often down 50, 60, 70% sometimes.
Occupancy of office getting to 30% below pre-pandemic levels.
The office sector certainly is going to experience more pain than any other sector in the next 2 to 4 years.
With only a small percent of desks occupied around the world 5 days a week and trillions of dollars of commercial and office debt about to come due in the next couple of years, it really makes you wonder how it's all going to shake out.
So are we really doomed?
So the question is, people gonna be picking up super cheap office space and trying to figure out to change it in there. Somebody put in there a lot of people changing. I thought, shout out to Ottawa that changing office space into condos, right? Depending on how they configure it, changing them to gaming areas and other different spaces, right? To make them profitable. But like you said, what's that gonna look like in 2 or 3 years? Or can you just get it dirt cheap?
Or is there a way for cities to pull themselves out of the loop?
The fundamental problem is that we have too much office. The only solution in the long run is to get rid of some of the excess office we have and repurpose some of that space. The solution you hear about the most is apartments. Turns out that that's easier said than done because a lot of our large offices are very big buildings. By my own calculations, only about 10% of office buildings are physically suitable for conversion to apartments. But that's just one of the options. You could think about more medical office space. You could think about more entertainment spaces, more hotel space. There's a lot of creative things we could do with the land. This is nothing new. Cities have always reinvented themselves throughout the ages. And it's now basically our next challenge is to get rid of some of that defunct office space.
Once again, I thought that was super interesting, right? Coming from the work from home, going back to the office. And these are some of the reasons I believe they want you to come back in the office. So let's look at this other quick Goldman Sachs. It's a little older. I'm not going to jump in. I should have had Textual Chatter because he used to work for Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs is pressuring workers to return to the office 5 days a week. Hear how it's tough return to office stands compared to that, right? Goldman Sachs is ramping up an effort to make staff return to office 5 days a week. Companies are cracking down on their office mandates, much to the ire of staff used to work from home. Zoom and Meta and Amazon, which we talked about, Amazon are going back. But Goldman Sachs is pushing return to office full time after senior executives grew frustrated by some staff who failed to follow their 5 day a week policy. While the flexibility when needed, we're simply reminding our employees of our existing policy. Goldman Sachs HR Chief Jacqueline Arthur told the publication, we have continued to encourage employees to work in the office 5 days a week. Insider has approached Goldman Sachs for comments on their capacity of office, or adding whether the return to office policy is affect office globally. Other companies of the U.S. are also cracking down. We looked at a fund. We talked about Zoom. If you were within 50 miles, you got to come in the office. Meta first informed return to office in June. We talked about Amazon's there. So, I mean, we talked a lot about this in the article. For me, though, Goldman Sachs, they're one of the biggest companies, and they're talking about 5 days a week. So that's just a whole different, ball game. So that's really all I wanted to hit today on a return to office, return to the office, work from home. Once again, I'm just kind of blessed to say I have a work from home job. I get to work 98%, go to office every blue moon, like once a quarter, maybe once every 6 months to do team building. For me, I think that's the future. I don't think I would ever go back in the office. But two is I understand why companies are pushing that. I understand. We just saw with the doom loop why the cities and states want you to come back, right? So just because I don't like it doesn't mean I don't understand it, right? And I don't respect it, right? So as a businessman, there's pros and cons of how you got to make decisions for you and your family, how you move and how you want to move. So I think, like Gabe said, make the best decision for what you're trying to do. And sometimes somebody put it in there. If you go to work in the office, you're going to cut out 95% of your competition when you're looking for work and when you're trying to get work. Once again, when I was applying for Indeed jobs, it was 100 people applying, 200 people applying. One job it said 300 people apply, right? So you got to have a unique skill set to make that, I think, a viable option now. But once again, if you got the skills and you grind, and a lot of companies I think are going hybrid, right, to kind of hit that mid-level. So once again, I'm off tomorrow. So if you want to reach out and talk to me, I set up a couple just conversations, 15, 20 minutes. If you want to talk to me. ProfessorBlackOps@gmail.com. You can look on my About page on YouTube. Just click the button, You're Not a Robot, and it pops up with the checkbox. So once again, I'm going to hang out for any more questions. I appreciate everybody for joining me. I know a lot of people get Veterans Day off tomorrow, and I know a lot of people don't. So once again, I get tomorrow off. So just kind of relaxing, studying. I'm studying for my CISP that's not going very well. So I'm going to try to study hard tomorrow. And that was one of my 2023 goals. The clock is ticking. So try to sit for that test and see how it goes. My studying is not going as well as I hope, but as I get older, you don't start memorizing like you used to. But shout out to me. I'm going to keep grinding and keep going and keep trying to make it happen. Once again, I'm hanging out. If you got any questions, check or cybersecurity, just reach out to me, and I'll wait and see if there's anything in the chat. If you want me to hit a video, just comment in the chat or just send me an email. My next video, I was answering a lot of questions about BIA, which is Business Impact Analysis, which is basically what business functions do you set up to do disaster recovery or continuity of operations? Meaning if your building gets hit by an airplane or goes down, usually when you roll over to DR, unless you got a ton of money, you only do like the top 15 things in your company, job function wise, that's going to make you money. I work for the state, so it's stuff we was required by the Fed to do, stuff we was required by the state to do, stuff that was making money, stuff that will help the constituents of the state of Indiana. So long story short, how do you rank your job function to figure out what order you should set up in your disaster recovery to be able to do that type of work, right? So that's going to be next. I've been asking a ton of questions of that. So that's going to be my next video. So once again, I appreciate everybody for joining me. I want everybody to have a great Veterans Day and a great weekend. Keep grinding, and it never stops, man. Even at 50 plus, it never stops. Once again, I want to appreciate everybody for joining me. I know I'm definitely going to see everybody in these YouTube streets. Professor Black Ops, I'm out. Once again, shoot me an email if y'all want to talk sooner or later. Let's see, Josh J. It's going to be tough getting people out. Well, it is, but I think especially Goldman Sachs, Meta, they pay so much money, Josh. I think people are going to force to go back. Meta paying people $300,000. I don't know where you're going to replace it at, Josh. So it depends on where you at in your life, man. If I was making $300,000, I'll go in the office, Josh. So when I interviewed with AWS, I think it was $340 all in with restricted stock units, Josh. You pay me $340, I roll into the office. Appreciate you, Black Dub. I roll in the office for $340, Josh, every day, all day. So, and I think Goldman Sachs the same way, man. When they start putting stock options in there, a lot of those guys, especially in New York, man, they making that New York money, man. They making $500,000, 400,000. So, right, it's the number that's gonna make me, Josh. It's the number. Like, if you pay me a big number, PBR put on some Dockers and roll in there, Josh. Now, shout out to everybody. I appreciate you for joining me. I love doing pop-ups. I need to start giving people a little more advanced notice. I'll be like, I'm gonna do something in 4 hours. But now, shout out to the YouTube algorithm. They be pushing my lives out. Once again, I appreciate everybody for joining me. If you need me, once again, ProfessorBlackOps@gmail.com. One word. Everybody have a great Friday and a great weekend. I'm out.